Hello, today I want to show you how you can write a bar chart for your IELTS Task 1. This is from IELTS 2 Test 4 Task 1. The table below shows the figures for imprisonment in 5 countries between 1930 and 1980. Alright, let's get started. First of all, what I'm gonna do is to paraphrase this one, then I'm gonna give no rule, then I'm gonna write number of bodies, as I've always done. That's not really difficult. If you've showed me previous videos, that wouldn't be difficult for you either. By the way, this is going to be my 99th video, so thank you so much for watching so far, and I really appreciate it. Anyway, let's get started. So now I'm gonna start with paraphrasing. This one is saying the table will, it's not a table. Why are you saying a table? It should have been chart, I believe. Let's say chart here to fix my problem. Chart below. Now I'm gonna paraphrase this by saying bar graph, because it's a bar graph. So I'm gonna mention that this is a bar graph. Bar graph. Sorry about that. Bar graph shows. You could say illustrates or any other information. You can say gives information on. I'll settle with illustrate the number of imprisonment. Let's say the numbers. The reason is we have a lot of numbers here. So now I want to say the number of imprisonments in 5 countries. Well, let's mention each one of them, like Britain, Australia, and New Zealand. Oh, sorry about that. I made a mistake while writing New Zealand. The USA, and the Canada. So between, well, this one is using between. How about using like from, or let's say just a television between. That's easy one, between, because it doesn't give a separate data for each year, so I'll just say this one and 1980. Okay, now I have this one is here, so as you can see it's written clearly. And now I'll start giving normal part. Overall is going to be a little bit harder because we have too much data. It's really hard to grasp in the world. Overall, Canada had the highest number of prisoners in 1930, while Great Britain had the lowest. Alright, I guess here I should have done like this one and this one instead. That would be much more clear. Right then, however, over the next 5 decades, the figure for increase, the figure for this decreased, I should say, decreased in Canada, and the United States had the highest number of prisoners. Well, you can see that the US had the highest number, and this one is clearly showing that while Canada had a different number. Alright, so and now I'll start by writing not oral, sorry about that, body parts. Alright, we move to body parts. You can say initially at the beginning, initially in 1930, sorry about that, I believe I've forgotten comma, yeah, here. In 1930, Canada, we go into detail, had 120,000 prisoners, and that was the highest number of inmates among the 5 countries. They were 100,000 prisoners, both in the US and New Zealand. Right? Australia had, meanwhile, Australia had around 70,000. Well, I have this near me, so I can use it clearly. Look, so that would be helpful if you have this, so you can follow along with me. Right, anyway, 1,000 prisoners. We don't have any other like a synonym for this word. Don't try to come up with a new word, because that would be totally you may make any other mistakes. Like, that's why you can stay with this word if you don't have any other options. Alright, prisoners, and that was, I can say that was the lowest. Sorry about that, it wasn't the lowest. Which one was the lowest? That the lowest one was Great Britain, I should say. And the Great Britain had only 30,000 prisoners, and that was the lowest. Alright. After a decade, the prisoners number in Britain remained almost the same, while the number decreased in Australia, New Zealand, and Canada. However, New Zealand and Canada, I've forgotten common story about that again. As always, like however, I should say this year, the total number of prisoners increased in the US by 30,000, and reached 130,000 in, well, I'll give more detail, like as much as I can. In 1950, the prisoners number, the prisoners number increased in Britain, and slightly decreased in Australia and New Zealand. Well, yes, as you can see, this is a number, and this one's clearly showing that these numbers are dropping for Australia and New Zealand, Britain, while these numbers are still high in Canada and the United States of America, right? And yeah, I'll move to another body because we didn't finish yet, so I think it'll take a little bit longer because it's kind of bigger board, so we have a lot of information to grasp here, right here. So I have to write a lot. Alright, stay with me, please. On the other hand, well, the prisoner in Canada, the number of prisoners of prisoners in Canada increased and became the highest. Alright, this one we are talking about the 1950, so it became the highest here as well, because it was US before, and again Canada, again US. It says US, right? Increased and became and the highest among the 5 countries. Yes, I wrote correctly. And decreased in the United States of America, obviously decreased in the US. Okay, in the US. A similar, sorry again, I forgot here. I believe I made space. Too much space. All right. And a similar trend in terms of prisoner number in these countries could be observed. Sorry about some difficulties. I forgot to do this. Now I'll do it. Sorry about that again. Observe it after a decade. Alright, finally, we're coming to the end in 1980. So we came here, this part, the last one. In 1980, the prisoners number in these countries increased, or I can say rose, except in Australia. The US had the highest number of prisoners this year, and Great Britain, Canada, and New Zealand had more than 8,000 prisoners this year. Okay, we went into detail. We talked about every single part. I didn't miss any detail. I mentioned this one up to this point. And if you have any questions, you can leave in the comments. By the way, I created a website where I'll post these materials. You can use them for free, and yeah, you can learn from them as well. I'll try to leave the link in the below, or you can find it from this channel. And thank you so much for watching, as always. And if you have any questions, please leave comments. And if you forgot, please like. It will definitely help. Thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. And I'll see you next time. Bye.